All right, guys, we're going to get going now. For those of you that just joined, my name is Charlie Leonardo. I work in client services here at InCrowd, and we're excited to have you on board today to talk about a new series that we're launching called Virtual Lunch and Learns. And the goal for these is really to share some cases where our clients are effectively using InCrowd and talk about the various ways where we can provide value. And because this is the first of the series and we'll be doing more of these, if you have any ideas for content that you'd like to be discussed during these sessions, please let us know. And I'm going to keep some time open at the end of this conversation just to answer any questions that you guys have about what we're going to talk about today. And in the event that you have a question and we don't get to it, please feel free to reach out to us, and I'm happy to talk with you individually either later on today or later on this week. But with that, let's just get going. So this is the client services team here at InCrowd. I'm all the way over on the left, and I'm sure many of you have probably spoken to or worked with one, if not all of us here. And I'm joined today by our leader in the client services department, Caleb Costa.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. So for the agenda today, there's two cases that we're going to talk through, gaining market landscape intelligence first, and then some branding work we've done after that. And really what we want to do is explore the life cycle of these cases and how they evolved. So, how this need came about, what the question was that our clients faced, how they used InCrowd, in terms of the nuts and bolts and how they executed the survey. And then finally, what was the output of that? What did they learn from the survey that they did with InCrowd? So the first case is, exploring market landscape. And if you boil it down to one question, it's pretty simple. What's the landscape right now, and how will my new product affect it? So essentially with this case, the client had been working towards a product launch for a number of months. And this is a great example about how InCrowd can complement other types of research projects that you're doing. To give you a little bit more context, the space that this client had been working in had become increasingly more crowded with some new products launching over the past 6 weeks or so. So what they did is they used InCrowd because they wanted to get a quick gut check prior to launch to get a current read on the market dynamics to see if they changed it all to sort of complement the stuff that they had been doing otherwise in the previous months. So the first thing that they did once they figured out what the question is that they wanted to answer is they logged into their account, and this should look very familiar to most of you guys, and they started to build their survey. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we have 11 question types, very versatile. There's a lot of different things that we can do with these question types. And in this particular case, what they wanted to do is use a numerical allocation question. And it's a pretty simple concept. Basically, they wanted to present their target physicians with all of the different treatments that were currently on the market. And they wanted to say, based on a 100-point scale, please allocate these points to how you're currently prescribing this stuff. And then as the next question, what they wanted to do is show a product profile for their new product that they were just about to launch, which is what you're looking at on the screen right now. And some of you have probably experienced this, but it's very, very easy, and we have a lot of different functionality for displaying different types of stimuli, whether it be product profiles, pictures, videos, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next example. But it's very easy to drop a product profile in, and then the second half of this is having their target physicians look at the product profile, read through it, and then say, okay, assume that this was approved by the FDA, this is on the market. How would this change your prescribing patterns and the way that you think about prescribing this type of treatment to your patients? And once they reached a consensus with the survey, they created the survey, shared it with different colleagues, different stakeholders on their side. They got to a point where they say, okay, we feel really good about this. The next step for fielding a survey with InCrowd is picking your crowd. So you can see on the screen here, there's 3 different crowds that we can provide folks with. The one at the top is called a custom crowd, and I think some of you on the call today have experienced this, where you send InCrowd a target list, we match against our panel, and this is a great way for us to target the specific types of physicians that you want to talk to. The middle is just using our homegrown panel here at InCrowd and targeting physicians based on the profiling wizard, and that's what we did in this case. And the last one is it says based on a response to a prior question. Here we call it just a follow-up crowd. And basically what that allows you to do is follow up with folks that responded to your survey or responded to a survey in a particular way. And a lot of our clients use this for longitudinal studies and things like that. But those are the three different types of crowds that we provide folks. As I mentioned, for this, we just use the profiling wizard. And here you can see some of the profile questions that we already have on file for these folks. So it's very easy. Right off the bat, before you even think about asking screening questions to the panel, you can focus on people based on years in practice, age, practice setting, patient volume, and then all the way down at the bottom you can see the big one there, which is specialty. In this case, they wanted to just focus on breast cancer treaters, and it was something that we were able to provide for them. But they got to a point where they felt good about their survey, what they wanted to ask. They felt confident that they were going to get some good insight out of this, and they were able to target the folks that they wanted to speak with. And then the next step is, okay, well, let's send this to field and start getting some data back. And what you're looking at here is sort of the control center that you see before you send a survey into the field. And up at the top, you can see the questions, and all the way on the right, you can see sort of before you send it out, it's your last chance to try the question or edit the question if you want to do that. And then in the middle, you can see the time limit, and that's sort of something that we do here at InCrowd, where you can send a survey into field. If you're just looking for a quick hit, some directional data or something like that, you can leave it in field for a day or a couple of hours or a number of days, or you could choose to have no time limit and just focus on closing the survey when you get to a certain amount of completes, which you're seeing down at the bottom. So you can see maximum number of completes 100. So we're going to leave this survey in the field until we get to the desired number of completes. At that point, it'll close. So once we choose our number of completes, we feel good about the survey, we have our target crowd, the next thing to do, and the final thing to do before sending it into field, is to click that orange button in the bottom right-hand corner, which you see Send to Crowd. And once you do that, typically in a matter of just a couple minutes, you can see the data coming in real time. And this is an actual screenshot for this survey in our platform. So it's a really exciting part of working with InCrowd, being able to see that data come in real time. And we are proud of the fact that we have all of our panel members are double opted in. They're excited about working with InCrowd. They're excited at the opportunity to do that because they know if they get a survey from InCrowd, it's going to be quick for them. It's going to be very informative for them. And because of that, it is, we do get these quick turnaround times, and we have some new technology being released. We just have a new app for our respondents as well that we'll talk about a little bit later that makes it even easier for them to answer these questions. And the easier it is for them, the better data we're going to get back from them and the better insight you're going to get through that. But for this particular example, we watched the data come in real time. And then finally, once we reached our certain number of completes that we wanted, and the survey closes, one of the things that my team does here, client services, is once the survey closes, we put a summary of the results together and we send it out to the client. And that is usually a combination of a PowerPoint slide deck and a data file in the event that you want to do any type of data manipulation on your own. And for this particular project, I wanted to isolate on what I thought was the most important key takeaway of this, which is, what is the market share that we're going to get for this new product that we're launching? And the interesting thing about this case is, I mentioned before, this was in conjunction with some other research that they were doing in the lead up to this product launch. And because the market dynamics were shifting so much over the previous 4 or 5 weeks, what we found is the share was a bit higher than their previous study had indicated. So the more recent data that InCrowd could provide for them did provide a deeper insight that they had gotten previously. So again, this is a great example of how we can work in conjunction with other types of research projects that you're doing. And honestly, that's pretty common for us. We do that often. So the next thing we're going to talk about in terms of cases is branding. And this example that we're going to talk about is really representative of how most of our clients use InCrowd to assess really any types of media, any type of branding, logos, sales material, product packaging, and things like that. But the concept is really easy. Whatever you're trying to measure, and what we're going to talk about today is just a logo, but what's the most effective for my target audience, and what is going to resonate the most with them? And how we work with media is it's pretty flexible, and we can do any type of image files, whether it's JPEGs, PDFs, or really anything that you have, even videos we can use. And the types of projects that we do are things like ranking, if you just want to get a quick sense of what they like the best, or rating around key attributes and mission statements, and we're going to be talking about that in this case. And in some surveys, it's just open ends, where they see a logo or they see some type of stimuli, and they just want to get their gut reaction. What do you think about this? And there's a variety of other things that we do as well, but those typically take up the lion's share of the work. But it's very easy to drop one stimuli into a question or a number of them, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and you can see that in this example. And basically, this is a very typical example where we drop a stimuli in, and we have a series of mission statements. You can see on the screen, this company helps me understand my challenges with market research, or this company makes me think differently about market research. Whatever the statements may be, you can rate them based on whatever stimuli we put in the question. And one of the key things about InCrowd that I find incredibly helpful is the ability to, once you've created your question, just being able to try it based on how the respondent is going to see it. Because sometimes when you're writing this on the back end, and then you see it how the respondent is going to see it, you can, whether it's just as simple as catching typos or thinking to yourself, well, this isn't exactly how I want to ask this question, or anything in between. But we do have that functionality here where you, after you create the question, can try it, or you can share this with colleagues and other key stakeholders on your side. Say, this is what we're going to send to field. How do we feel about this? Do we want to make any tweaks before we do that? And once you reach a consensus about what you want to ask, then it's the same process as the previous case. Survey's good. Let's pick our target crowd, and we have those 3 ways of doing that, whether it's a custom crowd using the profiling wizard or a follow-up crowd. But in this particular example, it was pretty easy for us to use the profiling wizard to target our crowd, and we sent it to field. And again, this is just a different example of how you can look at the data as it's coming in real time, and this was a little bit different from before because it was just a standard rating question, but you can start to see the data come in. And again, once this survey closes, what the client services team here will provide back, and this is actually an example of the question that we're looking at now, which is a polished, nice summary of what the data is suggesting. So in this case, we did have on the left-hand side those mission statements. This company understands my challenges with market research, so on and so forth. And it's a great way to summarize the data and get your key takeaways and get the insight out of any type of survey like this, whether it is evaluating stimuli or a number of other things that we do. And this is just one example. Another one would be if you had some, let's say, key attributes from your marketing department. We feel strongly about this, and we want to make sure when people see our logo or see this image, these are the things that they're thinking of. And in this case, logo B was associated with the highest percentage of their key attributes as well. So this is very typical for something that client services deliver. And for some of you guys that have gotten these in the past, what you'll notice is there's we've changed up our branding for this and just made some enhancements to the analysis that we do for this information. So moving forward, you'll be seeing this more and more from us. So in terms of just some key takeaways for this, what I want you guys to think about is working with InCrowd, you get insights very, very quickly from us. number one. Number two, we do have some enhanced technology as well. I mentioned the new app. It's going to be much easier and flexible for our respondents to answer the questions, and which in turn will give us better data. And there's a number of new things that we'll be releasing throughout the spring, whether it's different types of questions that we can ask or a variety of other things that you'll be hearing about in the coming weeks, but we're really excited about these new releases. The third thing is something that we think about daily here at InCrowd is just building our crowds, and I think we've done a great job over the past 6 to 12 months with extending our reach both domestically and abroad. We do now offer surveys in Japan, whereas before it was just here in the U.S. and throughout the European Union, but we just added Japan. We're excited about that. And we do currently have in place a number of partnerships that really helps us to have a much broader reach. But not only that, but just deepen the different types of specialties that we have here. So in the past, if you had tried to work with InCrowd and we didn't necessarily have the target audience that you were looking for, please reach out to client services. Let's have that conversation and revisit that, because we've been working hard on it and there's been a lot of changes. And then finally, all of these cases that we talked through were incredibly easy for the clients to do, and particularly with the help of client services. So it's very, very easy to do, and hopefully with some of the insights that we looked at with those PowerPoint slides, they were valuable and people got a lot out of them. So I encourage all of you to unlock the value of InCrowd, because it's really easy to do, and we have a client services team here for a reason. So anytime you're posed with a question in your day-to-day that you have to answer and you need a quick turnaround or anything like that, and you're not sure if InCrowd can help, reach out to us. We're happy to have a conversation to explore the ways where we can provide some value to you. So at this point, I am going to open it up to you guys. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything that you've seen today or about anything that you have in general.